Welcome to the Boiling Point. I am with Gerald Blain, Director of Sales for our Project Sales and Service Division. It's cold, freezing actually, and typically when that happens, there's a lot of companies out there that get curtailed and maybe have to have some type of a backup fuel. There's some places that actually have one fuel, maybe like natural gas or number two, and they maybe need a second fuel as a backup. Now, one of the things that people have been talking about is the liquid natural gas, and I'd like to just maybe go over some things about what LNG is and maybe some of the differences. So,
yeah, we've been doing some research on this, trying to get comfortable with the product. A lot of times when you experience anything new, it can be a little scary. You're not always sure if it's safe or not. The research we've done, it's a very safe product. Matter of fact, it may be the most safe fuel on the market. It has a very high ignition point. It's over 1,000 degrees, so you couldn't even light a fire with it with a cigarette. I mean, it's very, very safe. It's lighter than air, so if you have any spills, it dissipates very rapidly into the air. If you were to even, say, spill it into water, it would dissipate on water, leave some ice in the background, but it wouldn't have any kind of a catastrophic event from it. So it's really kind of unique to itself.
Now, somebody's running natural gas, let's say, and then they wanted to have LNG as a backup. What's that process look like? How does the burner handle it? What do you actually have to do something like that?
Yeah, it's similar to propane in terms of storage.
Okay.
It has a more similar BTU content when we end up vaporizing it over to the burner. Where typical burner, when we're burning propane, we're going to have to change some gas train regulator springs and so forth because of the amount of BTUs in a cubic foot. Where the BTU content in a LNG cubic foot is going to be real similar to natural gas. When we've done startups on our systems, it functions just like natural gas. And truly it is, other than it's condensed at a very low temperature, but it's condensed at like 60 times what other compressed gases are. So it's got unique storage capabilities. When we finally convert it, it's actually a cleaner fuel than regular methane. It's the same product, but what we do is the facility will take the methane in, it will strip off some of the nasty compounds of a normal methane. Natural gas in and of itself is fairly clean, but it still has some things that can be cleaned up. And LNG takes it that step further to get that done.
Right. Why would you do an LNG over, let's say, a number two fuel oil as a backup?
Well, in our experience, our number two fuel oil customers that actually have that as a backup, more often than not, they're not doing the things they need to do to keep the system operating and ready. Your number two oils, if you're not circulating properly and testing periodically, you'll end up cracking it, it'll water out, and it won't work when you need it. So it's not that it can't be a good backup, but it takes a lot more attention.
Right.
Where with an LNG or even a propane, they tend to just take care of themselves, and when you need it, it's there.
Yeah. So when they're doing the LNG, are they just putting a tank on site? I mean, what actually goes through the process? If somebody wanted a backup, what is it that they need to do?
Yeah, it'll be, if you have any experience with number two oil or propane, it'll be similar. You're going to have, even though it dissipates very quickly, you're still going to have containment fields. So depending on your size tank, you're going to have some sort of safety containment. Even though the odds are by the time it catches it, it's going to be gone. And then depending on how many hours or days of backup you need is going to determine what your tank sizes are, the delivery loads, when they're triggered, and so forth.
And they're actually bringing it on site and filling up your tanks. So.
Yeah, they're going to bring it in a big tanker load. What they often do is they'll have some sort of telemetry system, a system that'll be monitoring your tank on when they should come in and fill up. So it's kind of a seamless type of an operation.
Right. What about just from a cost standpoint? I mean, is there any type of a savings at all?
It's like fuel in general. It all fluctuates to some degree. It's not necessarily something you're going to go after and say we can replace natural gas for it. Natural gas is readily piped in. It's economical. But in terms of, say, a number two oil or even a propane, it's going to have a fairly significant impact on you, at least over time. There are times where they get kind of close in price, but if you look over about a 10-year period, which is what the research we did, you're going to have a major savings. It has a very stable pricing point versus oil spikes as well as propane spikes. So long term, it's very solid.
Right. If you'd like to know a little bit more about LNG, there's a great video on YouTube. If you check it out right up here in this corner up here and type that in, you'll be able to see a little bit more about LNG. Now, Gerald, we've been doing some research on LNG, as you talked about, but also there's a partnership that you've been working on.
Yeah, because of our customers, so many using natural gas, having a number 2 backup oil, or maybe just having oil and don't have a gas option. We've entered into a partnership. If you're interested in knowing more about it, give us a call. We can help you walk you through it, show you what you're going to need to use that as a backup fuel, or in some cases maybe even a primary fuel.
Now, as far as real quick, why do you even need a backup fuel?
Well, in a lot of cases, if you don't have a backup fuel, you're kind of subject to whatever the gas company wants to charge you. And if you do have a backup fuel, at least you have a negotiating chip, or sometimes you get curtailed where you literally, they shut you off and say, go to your backup. So in those cases, you want to make sure you do have a reliable backup that you can get to. So many times with our oil customers, we get called in the middle of the night saying, hey, you got to get out here, we're getting curtailed.
Right, right. That kind of a safety there to keep that production rolling.
Right.
So, all right, well, appreciate you hanging out with us, Gerald, and we'll see you next time on The Boiling Point. Well, it's the day before Boiler University. When you're actually watching this on Monday, our Boiler University Class 201 starts on Tuesday and goes for 3 days. Now, we've got all of our boards ready, all of the parts that we'll be talking about, of course, still cleaning up and getting things ready for the guys when they come in. Got a full class, excited for them to be able to see the lab as the guys have been firing the boilers up, getting the systems ready, and ready for them to actually be working hands-on. Now, we're excited about the Boiler University, and I hope you are too, and we'd love to see you at the class. Make sure you go out on the website and sign up, as those classes are filling up fast. Well, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. If you don't mind, maybe subscribe to the YouTube channel, and as always, share a video. We'll see you next time on The Boiling Point.